Hello, there's a James Comey in the reports by Fox News and Marie Bartiromo. This will shock Marie Bartiromo even more. But the local news, including Fox Connecticut News, next and the intelligence next to them, have roles with a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and co-defendants of his. There's a guy who looked just like James Comey, even if it wasn't his. He was recorded collusions because it was before he was reported in as the FBI director, and through his FBI directorialship. New Britain Superior Court has been putting fake things in their databases since I was a kid, with the people involved with them, with this. Also with judges and prosecutors speaking fake things in databases, and roles with arrests with the police forms to cover up what I caught them doing before the World Trade Center attack, and to cover up what other people caught them doing too. Because the breaching method uses them and used them remotely at countries A through Z. Having the audacity to speak with passions and emotions about the law, they can't even get black people's whites of eyes right. They can't even allow honesty regarding the extortion of George Washington. They can't even allow honesty regarding the extortion of the people of New York City. The suburbs were designed tactically to nature to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures per the same method that had already been sustained against differences A through Z. And then Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. And we know that the databases were criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought. Collusions with all kinds of natures and methods of torture, extortion, fact-cheating nature, slavery, therefore physical, and forcing people to pretend other to an extent against themselves and against others. Otherwise, they were censored. This is all declassified. People pretend things are debatable and pretend not to, in other words. Offensively, we are prevented writing on a mass scale because it would have revealed there are mass evidences racketeering roles, needs, and natures only capable of being, only capable of not affording to be discerned properly. How that was forced by the breaching method. They can't even have afforded discern properly appreciation of why and how there's a witch trials place next to Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. Increasingly with all kinds of additional motivations, natures, needs, names, sense and sensibilities regarding defenses of that claimed science. When they are replaced, they are roles replacing what James Madison and our founders communicated. They had declassified no one had free speech. Everyone's speech was being measured and maintained an extent of collusion against themselves and against everyone else. Otherwise, that body was censored and it was adapted to, including if it was a majority of people, including if it was everyone. That's what slavery was entrenched for since before our founders were born, a human fact-cheating nature breaching method. That nature itself, too, shows us that's one of the things true always, that the laws that were value adds, not just the colonial laws, but the rules with the early states laws that they were entrenched, not because that was avoiding problems, because people couldn't agree, because a breaching method was entrenched roles with their speech, with their fact-cheating nature, quality aspects and natures, and with their education from off the locations of it. And then further with hyper additional collusion /S there. So we're going to have to pay attention to mandated law. Wethersfield police have been fabricating phone transcripts with the FBI, and their sources have CIA in their syntax with their confessions. Kelly Kazmarek, I never saw her inside of school. I never saw her in real life. I saw her on Facebook. They take my Facebook page because people were confirming roles with all kinds of natures of predicate acts and roles with crime scenes with Wethersfield police and people tied to them, intercities. Their roles with body dumping spots and people with the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices and next to them and conjunctions to it. The difference of that is also exploited. Also because where and how it is exploited, where and how. There's the breaching method uses and has used names on all sides of criminal and civil cases and the names of the court, even the differences of the names of their positions, like judges, prosecutors, their family members, too, the difference of their and victims advocates, roles with sexual and medical offenders of kids years apart. That the judges and prosecutors and the family members had collusions with also foreign and domestic military, personally and professionally, medical too, at the same time. These are people putting fake transcripts in databases as ones personally and professionally with judges, prosecutors, even people seating juries. So no one gets on paper legitimately on a mass scale. And it is manifest where people are making serious treatments about serious things, all the natures of serious instances. In other words, and there are always people that are pretending past is most as clear today, and the opposite who are collusions with the difference of that too, against differences. We have black pupils, white eyes, we have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time. The difference though is that nature itself is projecting this to us. Nature itself is communicating with us. More revelations than just that, because other species' bodies also are manifest with quality aspects of nature distinct, but also non-distinct, and simultaneous, but also further a distinct identity of simultaneous nature as a value/value progression, as what is not us nor them, but is all things anyway. And giving us an extent of means to discern its body, even though it's hyper invisible, but it's still discernible. It is such inside the nature of English grammar and of other languages. The subject, the parts of speech of languages and of English grammar, they are about the invisible but still discernible. Where and how and why we need more than one name for a verb. We need to appreciate more than one name for a verb. This is where and how we could discern to an extent that distinct identity of hyper invisible but still discernible. And it is functional being so, being a real, distinct from all other identities of value progression. Identity of value progression is also inseparable from all other identities of value progression, even if something is made up, as art was originally used to appreciate. The order of the finite, or the smallest finite details, active or grouped details, and truth and values of value progression. And simultaneous, they come again. Everything's about the hyper simultaneous, a distinct identity of value progression. I digress, but this is because, in other words, for example, I'm one of the people who was in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center attack, next to the World Trade Center towers, right before the attack. The people associated with that were brought up in confessions to me at my schools, where the intelligence family has the intelligence community has roles with all the nations in the news, including ones fighting with each other. Where they have natures of peace together, there are criminal and citizens' natures of peace. That's one of the reasons that wars have stayed, even though the colonists could have and wanted to build safer and better than the suburban homes that are self-valued now only because of the relativity to the torture, extortion, and fact-cheating nature slavery method. Even worse at the suburban and urban/suburban, like Hartford is self-described. But self-described through a breaching method that has complete possession of their fact-cheating nature quality aspects in nature. They have replaced what our founders communicated about the founding locations in Hartford, Connecticut, and Wethersfield, Connecticut, etc. They have replaced with our founders, James Madison. Our founders communicated for us to refer to themselves plural as James Madison singular, and how they used his plan, and then went and got George Washington to agree to use it. And that plan was to counter, extort, and force people at key locations in more than 13 colonies were entrenched, and northern and southern colonies were entrenched with slavery. They also communicated for us to understand how they wanted no roles with that, but they had no means to get out of it yet because it was entrenched. They had to force people to break an extent of the laws and have no way to defend themselves, but to rely on the breaching, the unity set up by James Madison's plan. which is simultaneously a nature of independence. But it was still breached, and there was nothing they or anyone else could do about it. This is a breaching method that had been perfected since before modern religious messengers were born, and it had roles entrenched. It had roles right through, fluent through modern countries while they were forming and speaking for the breaching method without even realizing it. It made A through Z blame other things, others, or selves for things that it caused, for things that it keeps and maintains. Too, and nature's demonstrations of that, it maintains blamed on other things, others, or selves, and shows our own people how to keep that being having been. Well, that's the standard. In other words. So if they follow mandated law, they're also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and they pretend their titles means what it doesn't, because they can't get on paper legitimately. Including they have their family members involved with this, because the breaching method did that to give them real and the excuses to use as fake when everything is fake. They have collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases, the lawyers, the sources, themselves, and the court at the same time putting the same sequence shifts, the same natures of collusion /S with overt criminal enterprise, private ones, even when they're not in those cases. Terrorists too. See, all of a sudden everyone's using the word extremism with all these serious subjects. All they can do is use words extremism and call names to people, leaving out how everyone's forced to hide things, including collusion /S clearer than day, black pupils, worse than criminal incompetence. Anyone only allowed to be heard speaking about black or white, or would have brought up how we have black pupils, whites of eyes. That which is inseparable from the subject treatments, let alone the breaching method's reassignment of that. Inseparable from any proper American history treatment, but they'll have this replaced. Oh, peace. There are also another. So in other words, please get them on paper, one name and sequence. Fox News, and the names of Fox Connecticut News. That are collusions. These are ones collusions with Fox, WFSB attached to fake conversations with themselves and with others, and about the World Trade Center attack. And simultaneously, while they were forcing a principal child abuser, and simultaneously, while they were forcing roles with untimely deaths and with use /S of them, and simultaneously, where they were forcing roles with murders and cover-ups of the confessions and confirmations on Facebook to me and to others, and their roles with the FBI and other agencies changing, and foreign and domestic military getting involved, playing games, changing and faking, which is digitally recorded, also with Facebook leadership. Facebook has foreign and domestic military with New Britain Superior Court involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids with them. Enforcing it, roles with Wethersfield Police too. And Whiting Forensics has roles with them too, with the Joshua Julian, with the Facebook page of the principal upskirt nature. And I need a response for the confessions tied to him. There's a Mike Levine is involved with a bunch of people named tomorrow and all along Route 3. Who also have roles with the Town Line Drive and Town Line locations with identity theft, fraud, slingers. I never had a word of conversation with Mike Levine in my life. These are people involved with the Saudi attackers through how they have Americans in Saudi shared with the campuses like Central Connecticut State University, Trinity College, as the ones involved with my neighbors with some untimely deaths, my past neighbors, and people tied to them. Involved with some police forging and switching names, refusing to identify themselves legitimately through the years. Then they lie, oh, that was in the past. They're playing games. They're playing extortion. They're making it worse. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. They're confessing that too while they're pretending other. That's even more evidence. They want to go before courts that are criminally involved with them. I caught them too. They've been refusing me writing since I was a kid. They have a whole bunch of people within the Britain Superior Court involved with the FBI, with the branches of the government, multiple police departments with predicate acts methods that the branches of the government have individually and then grouped too. And then simultaneously, they have mayors and their family members and conjunctions to them interstate. And they also pretend they're about free speech with passions, emotions, dishonest, like people with the name Fienza, with mayors with Cromwell and intelligence with Cromwell involved with sexual and medical offenders of little kids. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with people on 2 Route Highway in Wethersfield and next to the state judicial branch offices in Wethersfield. And these are also people at and next to the news locations involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with them. They refuse to put paper where they have people involved yelling out threats of violence. They have, in other words, then they try to make it. They turn around when I yelled out one of the things to them. Watch them try to get on paper. There's a CM Faglione family with people on Gridswell Street with a former mayor Gold with some religious nutbags and people putting fake things in databases with a Rick CM Faglione, with a Brian Silver, with New Britain Superior Court, Hartford, Connecticut's District Court, people on off the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices, also with their neighbors. There's a Stephen Stocko, too. I don't know where he lives. A Stephen Stocko is involved with Wethersfield Pizza House, with the Wethersfield police, putting fake phone transcripts, covering them up. All kinds of evidence is racketeering, worse than war crimes. Get get whoever investigated the World Trade Center out of the military and out of the interbranch too. Make sure they get on paper when them in sequence, please, Americans. Get Judge Napolitano to get them on paper too. They have his Facebook page involved when he was with Fox News and since. These are people that won't get on paper because they have roles with these games with the people calling out threats, sequence shift, putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to people. I'm going to show you how to counter the violence threats and rape threats that New Britain Superior Court has rules with the proven child abusers principles that was used to force, and they were more involved with it. There's a Leahy family that faced conversations with me as doctors, as some of the foreign and domestic doctors involved with the Brian Silver and various natures of courts, judges and prosecutors with the same houses near me, and people from other areas that made confessions tied to this Leahy family, also involved with them with untimely deaths and sexual and medical abuses of kids around their home, and involvements of their own. They have little girls associated with and a Leahy family involved with them with all kinds of natures of organized crime on social media too. Hartford Hospital has a bunch of sexual and medical offenders, and with the intelligence community too, with the foreign and domestic military, also with not legitimately with their overt criminal enterprises and private ones with the locations next to Hartford Hospital through time. Eric Jensen is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with planting evidences with federal evidences, crimes, roles on all sides of my house. And people recorded, confessed him involved with them with home break-ins and wire crimes of the Wethersfield police. He and others said it's with people and places all along Route 175 from the founding locations. They have federal evidences, crimes with state police and conjunctions to that. People like 2 Route Highway, too. Sal Saviello, Eric Jensen, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed is involved with them. And with people near me, involved with the name Colo and Smith, involved with the Wethersfield police confessions and their own and demonstrations with this Detective Dillon and other police forms. Everyone trying to force people to speak through others, but then they're little cowards. They can't have they can't hear the answer. But they want to pretend. In other words, they're fishing with the foreign for cover-ups too. These are interbranch refusing to identify themselves legitimately with the news, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, all kinds of natures of collusions with all kinds of natures of crime scenes. All we need is recorded. All the countries have the same problem at the same time because we are in a semi-ancient trap. So all you guys have to do is follow mandated law for Judge Napolitano and for Fox News. But now for Judging Freedom YouTube channel too. People from Russia, Ukraine, all these are people collusion with them. Get the FBI and the New Britain Superior Court and the Hartford courts on paper with an officer Hunter too, involved with the Hartford courts with the FBI director and the interbranch family members with West Hartford locations, New Britain locations, town lines before the World Trade Center attack, as ones involved with the names next to the body dumping spot of the serial killer from years before that. People involved with other body dumping spots, and they were brought up at the same time, and with the people that brought up murderers' roles and confessions intercities, including the probation officers and people involved with it. Mike Oliver's probation. They made confessions, demonstration, confirmations to me other rules within in West and New Britain, and with the houses and intelligence at next to Central Connecticut State University, they have rules with intelligence at next to other campuses like Trinity